3. That's the nothing personal word of the day. It is Wednesday, October 11th, 10-11-2-3. 3 as in game 3. 2 game 3s. I'm watching the playoffs as they're developing, unraveling, thinking always what is happening inside front offices, inside the commissioner's office. They're not ready to sound the alarm yet, but they're getting damn close. Word comes out yesterday, ratings down 18%. People not watching, series ending in sweeps left and right. All 4 wildcard series, 2 and out. Sweeps. Possibility of sweeps in the division series. The possibility of an all-Texas League Championship Series. Despondency reigns. But there's a long way to go before the Astros and the Rangers are going to play each other. First, they have to win their series. Now, MLB for sure has rooting interests. They deny it, but they do. They were pretty explicit with me 20 years ago. We're coming on the 20-year anniversary, Coca. We are 2 weeks away from the 20-year anniversary of our clinching World Series game, October 25th, 2003. That'll be a fun day, a fun show. I think I'll wear the ring that day, just as a reminder. But it was very clear to us they wanted the Cubs and the Red Sox or the Yankees to win. Basically, Bud even said it. I get it. No problem. It's the same thing now. There is no way that the Diamondbacks don't realize that the Dodgers need to win that series. And the Diamondbacks are up 2-0, and they're playing today to try to sweep the Dodgers. There is no way that in Houston that you've got the Twins walking around saying, I think baseball really is interested in us winning this series. Of course not. It's important. The Astros are like villains. The Astros are comfort food in the postseason. We know the names. We know the players. Either you think of them like you did in 2017, or you just respect them for the dynasty that they are, and the lineup that they are, and the rotation that they are, and the bullpen that they are. So the Astros and Twins have an important game 3 yesterday, and Minnesota's at home, and everyone's excited. The crowd's going crazy. When you host a home playoff game, and there were 2 yesterday, both one in Minnesota and one in Dallas, and it was their first time hosting this postseason, and you're so excited. You've got the bunting up, and you're preparing the pregame timeline. Everything's going great. You're in the clubhouse. The players are excited. You're out on the field with VIPs during batting practice. You've got people from Major League Baseball there. You've got politicians there. You've got celebrities there. Everything is fantastic. And then you give up runs in the top of the first inning. There is nothing worse, not one thing worse. We gave up runs in the top of the first, Coca. First ever game at Marlins Park against the Cardinals. And I remember clearly how I felt, that it was so negative and so disappointing. Even worse than losing that game was giving up runs that quickly. In Minnesota, they didn't even have a chance to sit down, and the Astros were winning. And the Astros, of course, went on to crush the Twins yesterday, becoming 1 game away from winning the series, which we told you they were going to win the series, and going to the League Championship Series yet again. At some point, you're going to have to start agreeing with me that this is the best dynasty we've seen since the Yankees. And I mean the Yankees back in the late 90s. At some point, you're going to have to say that. I think we're already there, but let's see how far the Astros go this season. So I'm watching the game, and I'm reminded of how tough it is to have a pregame strategy and then execute that strategy. We'll do the meetings before the game where you meet with the hitters, you meet with the pitchers, you start with a meeting with the front office, then you go to the meeting with the manager, then you communicate everything down to the players. And all of this is going on. The minute the game ends, you're talking about the next game. As a front office, we're talking about the next game during the current game. We're thinking about who's going to be available, who's not going to be available, what we're going to do for pitching, what the lineup's going to look like. We're going through all that while watching the current game. When you've got a player on the other team who you have highlighted as someone you are not going to let beat you, then you cannot let that player beat you. If the Twins did not get together and say, we don't want Yordan Alvarez to beat us, then I'm not sure what they're doing. Yordan Alvarez is the best hitter on the Astros, and Yordan Alvarez crushed the Twins yesterday. The only explanation is that they didn't identify him, and they said, let's get beaten by Abreu. That would be a great thing to say, because that's what we would have said. If Abreu's going to beat us, that's fine. If he's going to hit 2 home runs and drive in 5, that's fine. And that's what happened yesterday. But Alvarez was the crusher. 2 doubles, a home run, and the Twins were simply outmatched. The Twins are finished. They had a good season, a good run. Correa tried, but the Astros are too deep. Do you know if the Astros win tonight? This is a stat that's pretty unbelievable. It's 7 straight LCS appearances. 7 straight. I don't think the Yankees even got to 7 straight, except back in the Mantle days when there wasn't even an LCS. So this is a great question for you, Coca, and I didn't ask you pre-show, and I'm sorry. Since the LCS started, which I assume is the modern era, 1969, has there ever been a team to go to 7 straight LCS? I'm trying to think of any team that would have done that. The Braves, maybe. No, I don't. The Braves did not go to 7. They may have in the 90s gone to 7 straight LCS over the period of their domination. The Dodgers, while they've been winning the division, no, they don't perform in the playoffs. It can't be them. It may only be the Astros. So the Astros are there. The Braves, oh, they're 8? Okay. Oh, there was no night. That's funny. So is that an asterisk, Coca? The Braves went to 8 straight LCS, but in 1994, there was no LCS because of the strike. So here's my take on that. The Braves win. The Braves are at 8 straight. That's better than the Astros. Because no one went to the LCS. There was no LCS. You can't say that the streak's over. It's not that another team took you down. So we're going to give that to the Braves. So then the game last night was the game that interested me on myriad levels. Let's start with the fact that it was important because I needed the Rangers to win because they were my pick of the day. But I also wanted Dean Kramer to pitch well. Dean Kramer from Team Israel trying to work through all of the distraction. He ended up having the worst start of his season. He only went 1 2/3 innings, and the game was over before it started. Gave up 7 hits, 6 runs in 1 2/3, and that was it. The Rangers crushed the Orioles and swept the Orioles. The Orioles, who had the best record in the American League. The Orioles, who had the bye. So all of the discussion about, are people stale? Are they rusty? You're all misguided. The reason why the Rangers beat the Orioles is the Rangers are playing better than the Orioles going into the playoffs. The Rangers are on one of their hot streaks, and when they're on one of their hot streaks, they don't lose. And their manager, Bruce Bochy, doesn't like losing in the postseason. Bruce Bochy has now taken 3 teams to the LCS. Think about that. I think there's only 3 managers to do that. He took the Padres in 98. Obviously, he won World Series with the Giants, 3 of them. And now he comes to Texas and boom, they're in the league championship series. Playing a home playoff game, only 1 in front of their home fans, their first one. Would I have secretly been rooting for us not to win that game so then we could have game 4 and have a second home playoff game? Of course not, because now I'm guaranteed more playoff games in the league championship series against the hated, likely Houston Astros, which will be an amazing series if you're in Texas. But the thing about Dean Kramer's start in the Orioles season and why it has nothing to do with rust or time off or playoff format that they got swept, if you look at how the Orioles played toward the end of the season, when you look at the makeup of their lineup, great young players. They are going to be good next year again, maybe even a favorite to win the division, believe it or not, again. But they could not match what the Rangers have. And people forget it is the strangest thing, all of our memories, because I forgot. And then I was doing the work getting ready for the show, and I was reminded what the starting lineup was in Seattle at the All-Star game only 3 months ago. Do you remember that it was a home game for the Texas Rangers? I think 5 of their starters started the All-Star game. They have the most prolific offense in baseball. Now, we said, and I still maintain, the Braves lineup during the regular season was deeper and shockingly difficult to find an out in. A Braves Rangers World Series would be something, wouldn't it? Those two lineups. But in the American League, it was never the Yankees. It was always the Rangers. And the Rangers, who are streaky, just show that they can out hit anybody. And then when you have Eovaldi pitching well, you have Montgomery pitching well. If they get Scherzer back and they get Heaney or Dunning in a game 4, yikes. We're going to have to really examine what an Astros Rangers LCS is going to look like. But it's going to be impressive. I can tell you that. So the reality of what MLB is facing is the Rangers-Orioles series is over. The Astros-Twins series could end tonight. The Braves-Phillies will not end tonight because it can't. They're tied at 1. And then you could have the Diamondbacks-Dodgers end tonight. So 3 out of the 4 division series could be done, and it's only Wednesday. And the LCS does not start until Sunday. Broadcasters, when they pay for postseason rights, you're not going to hear much about this. They're guaranteed a minimum number of games. And if you don't deliver those games, you have to do make goods. Sometimes there's even a provision in the contract where you have to extend the deal by a year. This is a nightmare for MLB. So we will see how it plays out, because the cynical side of me tells you that the Twins will win today and the Dodgers will win today. But those aren't necessarily my picks. Nothing personal. Pick of the day. We are 143 and 143. Coca, we're hot. HOTTT. We're back, baby. What a streaky. We're like the Rangers of our non-sponsored segment here for making our picks. But we have fought our way back to 500 after being a season low. I think we may have won 6 in a row right now. We've got 2 picks today. We won the Rangers over the Orioles. We won the Astros over the Twins. We're going with the Astros over the Twins again. Can you imagine having Urquidy as your 4th starter? Their rotation is deep. They don't want to have to go to a game 5 because they already know that Texas is in there. They want to rest and they want to reset their pitching just as badly, and as knowing that Texas is getting to reset theirs. So I got the Astros beating the Twins. Then we've got this amazing game 3 in Braves-Phillies, and everyone is going to be all over Nola. I would assume that the Braves are underdogs in this game because Philly and Citizens Bank, it's the greatest place to play. The Braves are a veteran team, and veteran teams love winning on the road. I've told you that I loved winning on the road more than I loved winning at home. The players do too. The real competitive red nose, what's the expression? Like when they put the eye black under their eye, and the people who are grinders, they love winning road games more than home games, because the power of making 40,000 people sit down and be quiet. You think Acuna, is there a bet that we can make, Coca, that you can find for the Braves to score in the 1st inning? I wonder, with Acuna leading off, I wonder whether or not it's plus money. It should be with Nola starting. I assume it's always plus money to score. But Coca, while I'm doing the pick of the day, if you can see if we can do a Braves to score in the 1st, I may want to add that as a little extra. But we're going to take the Braves over the Phillies. I still have the Braves as the better team and the Braves advancing. And to do that, they've got to win game 3. Not to say they can't win game 4, but I think they'd rather win game 3. So I want to go back to the Rangers-Orioles just for a second, and I want to follow up on yesterday. I very much appreciated the opportunity to talk to you about what was going on in Israel, what was going on in the Gaza Strip. We spent a half hour. We're not going to spend a half hour today. But I want to follow up because a lot of people watched and listened to the show yesterday. If you didn't catch it, we opened the show by talking about baseball, and then we spent the close of the show talking about the conflict, the war in Israel and in Gaza, which is now mostly in Gaza. I wanted to talk about some of the reactions and ask you to think about how you reacted to yesterday's show if you listened, and how certain people reacted. Many, many people came in the DMs appreciative at David P. Sampson, appreciative that I was willing to talk about it, where many of their sports podcasts, just there's no one talking about it. I don't want to be thanked for that. It's my responsibility, and I take it seriously. I did get a few people contacting me on two different sides, and I want to call them out, and I'm going to. I've got certain friends, acquaintances. I don't want to throw the word friend around. I actually don't like throwing that word friend around. I think people use that word way too much. I don't have many friends. I've got a lot of acquaintances. People say, oh, I've got 1,000 friends on Facebook. Really? Do you know that I can't even. The number of people you have on Facebook, they're not your friends. But I don't want to make anyone feel badly. So some acquaintances contacted me and were very disappointed that I was not harder on Palestinians and Hamas and explaining in a more grizzled, detailed way the atrocities that are going on and how this is completely one-sided in every way. And I responded that what is one-sided about it is the terrorist actions of Hamas. What's one-sided about it is what they're doing to women, children, babies. There is no other side. But I'm not willing to tell you that there is only one side to the other part of the issue in the Middle East and to the geopolitical situation that exists in the Middle East. I'm just not willing to do it. I'm not willing to tell you that there is no room for Palestinians. There's no room for Muslims. There's no room for Christians. Jerusalem should be just Israeli. Kick everyone else out. No land anywhere. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say, just because I'm Jewish, that Israel is correct in everything, in every policy they've done. I don't care how wrong Israel is. The response can't be terrorism. That is the point. Period. Hard stop. However, one of the problems is the people coming to me and telling me, no, if you've got your platform, you better make it clear you have a responsibility as a Jew, I was told. You have a responsibility to say it is simply no question that Israel never does anything wrong. You got the wrong person. That's not how I want to do the show. I want people to understand the issue and make a decision for themselves, but understand that there's certain things you better agree with me. Not because I won't respect you if you don't, but how is there another side to terrorism and babies and women and girls and music festival goers? There's no other side. And then I got some people very much on the other side. The anti-Semites came out of the woodwork yesterday, and I got a little word for you. The anti-Semites came out and said to me, I won't listen to you anymore as you continue to further the propaganda of your fellow Jews. You're not going to scare me. I'll tell you that right now. The anti-Semitism that is running rampant, and I am very willing to sit here and tell you that I do not understand the attention that comes when we've got racism, when we have misogyny, when we have movements like Me Too, all of which every one of those movements matters and is important. Every one of them. Because I stand for tolerance of everybody. Jewish people have to be included in that. Anti-Semitism is real. It is not proportional to the percentage of Jewish people there are in this world. I'll tell you that. We get more than 1% of the hate. One of the billboards that I saw recently asking all the non-Jews about the security they have in their churches. Do you need security? Do you have to go through metal detectors when you go to church? Because we do when we go to synagogue. Because we're so worried and synagogue attacks keep happening. The amount of anti-Semitism out there, it rears its head to me. It always has. Because if you're Jewish, you have experienced anti-Semitism. Does it inform how I am? Yes, of course. We are all a product of what we've experienced. I'm not going to hide from that. Does it mean I'm not sympathetic toward other people who suffer prejudice? Of course not. It's the opposite, actually. I empathize, even more so than most. But people who listened to me yesterday and your response is that I am not explaining how hard it is for Palestinians, and how dare I call for any sort of war, any sort of violence, any sort of retaliation, and how dare I criticize the pro-Palestinian rallies. Well, here's how I dare. I've already told you, and I said it yesterday, that there is a world where there are Palestinian people who are not being properly represented by the terrorist group that represents them. There is a world, and it is our world, where Palestinians do not necessarily, every one of them, believe in what Hamas is doing. And they don't. I don't have something against all Palestinians. However, the Palestinians who are standing up now and rallying all over the country and writing letters saying that everything is Israel's fault and let's kill the Jews. Yeah, I'll keep talking about that. So the point is the extremes, and this is so symbolic of our country. And in sports, we're the same thing. When we debate, we barely even get to debate sports. It's people yelling into the microphone one way or another. The extremes that manifested themselves after yesterday's show were so interesting because there's not one thing I could have said. There's not one thing I could have done that would have appeased either of the extremes. Because the people on the extreme, they actually don't want rational thought. They don't want learned counsel. They simply want everyone who disagrees with them to stop existing. Well, I've got a message for all of you on the end of the shoehorn, all of you people on the extreme right, the extreme left. The centers are not going to go away. And frankly, we're the only hope you've got. I'm not stopping, Coca. I'll tell you that. Okay. Did you find out about if we can bet the first inning? I didn't hear you. Were you talking to me during that segment? In any case, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to review a movie that you are going to love. And then I'm going to spend, we can? All right, what is it? You can bet on both teams. Oh, what you're saying is I can bet on a score in the first inning. So the over-under is like a half a run. Okay, so I have to go minus 120. We're going to add this as a bet, Coca, if you don't mind, please. Here's the bet. This is official, brought to you by, hello? I don't know who it's brought to you by. We're going to take the over a half a run in the first inning, and we have to lay 20% juice to do it. So it's minus 120 to win 100 that one of the Braves or Phillies will score in the first inning. Can you book that bet for me, Coca? On our Nothing Personal document. All right, we come back. We're going to review a great movie on Apple that I can't wait to talk to you about and introduce you to. And then we're going to talk about the fact that the hockey season opened, and we're going to shout out to our friend Barry Melrose. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It's David Sampson and Matthew Coca. Nothing Personal with David Sampson is the YouTube channel. Please hit subscribe. I don't know how to put jet fuel on our subscription numbers. I don't know how people get hundreds of thousands and millions of subscribers. I don't know how to be Mr. Beast unless we just start posting videos of us doing stuff naked or crazy, ridiculous stuff. Coca, maybe we'll do that. Maybe if we don't get bets right, I'll start doing like taking one piece of clothing off. But I think that'll make the viewership go down, not up. Please subscribe. We're with you live every day. We love our live audience, 8 a.m. Eastern. I know that Coca engages with you all in a chat, which is fun. It stops him from finding what the line is for the over under half a run. I'm just kidding. It didn't. We watch a movie every day. and we love your movie suggestions. One of you was really on it. At David P. Sampson on Twitter, at David P. Sampson on Instagram. We have TikTok that Coca posts every day. Nothingpersonal.npds is our TikTok. Why don't we just do a David P. Sampson TikTok and then have everything be called the same? Or maybe just have everything be called Nothing Personal. In any case, one of you, many of you, give me movie suggestions. Thank you. Keep doing that. I can't get to all of them. There are too many, although I do watch one a day. I watched yesterday a movie on Apple called Flora and Son. The reason why you suggested the movie to me means you know me and love me, and I appreciate it. You know I love John Carney. You know I love Sing Street. If you haven't seen it, watch it. You know I love Begin Again. If you haven't seen it, watch it. You know I love Once. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Well, John Carney's back with Bono's daughter, who was in Bad Sisters. Love her, Eve Henson. One of my favorites, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, the young kid from River Runs Through It, the guy from Don Juan, 500 Days of Summer. You know him. It's a movie about a mother and a son. And I'm very partial to movies like that because I'm the son of a mother. And it's a tough relationship, not reflective of my relationship with my mother at all. And maybe it was when I was a kid and I was a little more rebellious and a little more angry. And she's a single mother trying to figure out her child. And wouldn't you know it, she realizes that music is going to be the bond. Except she doesn't know how to play an instrument, so she wants to learn, and she goes online and finds an online teacher, and it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And he teaches her how to play guitar, which enables her to bond with her son, who she thinks is not a musician, but he thinks he is. It turns out he may be. The original music by John Carney is always first rate. The emotional heartstrings will be pulled. The story flows very quickly, very smoothly. It is a zero text movie. I didn't look at my phone one time. I didn't text anyone. It's on Apple TV. It's worth by itself the subscription. But once you get it, it'll enable you to watch Bad Sisters and all the other great things on Apple TV. So it's called Flora and Son. I don't know how to suggest it any more than I am. It is a must watch. You will be emotional. You will smile. You will shed a tear. And you will realize that your relationship with your mother, it's important. Your relationship with music, it's important. And the respect you should have for John Carney is large. So the NHL season started. And I don't want to... it's exciting. I like when a new season starts. I've always liked the Rangers. I liked when Gretzky was here. I love that the Rangers won the Cup in '94. Going to a hockey game is one of my favorite things. The Panthers had a great run in Florida. If you don't remember, they went all the way to the Stanley Cup last year. It's exciting. The Vegas Golden Knights are the reigning Cup champions, if you don't remember that. And it's the start of another season. The Chicago Blackhawks have the best amateur player on their team. He's now a professional. They're thinking that Connor Bedard is going to be the difference. But the story that came out yesterday, two of them, what people were talking about was some off-the-field issues. Barry Melrose is a name that you may not know. Barry Melrose has been associated with hockey for as long as I can remember, as a player, as a coach, as a broadcaster. When Barry Melrose was on your screen, there was a level of comfort. When you heard his voice, it was like, for those of you in the Northeast and of a certain age, John Davidson. But you may not remember that. Barry Melrose retired right before the season started yesterday, out of nowhere. And he announced that he's retiring because of Parkinson's. And it got me thinking back to our 448 challenge, which was already 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, where we raised all that money for my friend Brett Parker, who has Parkinson's, trying to find a cure for everybody, and how Barry Melrose needs a cure as well. He did it in a very public way. People tend to have different views of how they want to out themselves when they get Parkinson's. Some people want to hide it. It happens that way with cancer, actually. It happens that way with a lot of things. Some people just want to fight on their own. Some people want to fight with the love and support of many. strangers. Some people want just the support of their inside inner sanctum. It's a very personal decision, and no one makes the wrong decision. Barry Melrose coming out and saying he has Parkinson's and explaining that he wants to be with his family. He said, literally, it's time to hang up my skates and focus on my health and my family, including my supportive wife, Cindy, and whatever comes next. And all I kept thinking is that we owe it to Barry and to all of the people who have Parkinson's, who are fighting that fight. And frankly, to everybody who's fighting every fight. There's no one disease that's greater. It's just you raise money for the one that impacts your family or impacts your best friend. It doesn't mean that another disease is not as important or worthy of support. It doesn't matter to me what you support. If you are inclined today to donate money to charity, and here's the thing about giving money to charity, it's the right thing to do. And it's not about the amount. I promise you can afford to give $5. And you're telling me, David, oh, you're just a privileged rich guy. I can't afford $5. I disagree. It's $5. And you can do it over the course of 5 months. It's $1 a month. I always would tell my kids when they got their allowance that they had to take part of their allowance and start giving to charity. And my kids give money to charity every year. They work. They earn money. Charity is so necessary, whatever the cause. So to Barry Melrose, I want people to donate to Michael J. Fox in your honor because I want there to be a cure, because I want you to be cured. But if your inclination is to help cure something else, please do that today. And know that it may not be you today, but it may be you tomorrow. Barry, please take care of yourself. And reach out if you want. Brett Parker's on the patient council at Michael J. Fox. He's been involved. He can talk to you about, Brett Parker spends a lot of time talking to celebrities, talking to strangers, talking to normal people who get Parkinson's at all ages. And going through it and speaking to someone who's gone through it, it makes a difference. So Barry, if anyone knows Barry, I don't know you, Barry, but feel free to reach out. I'm happy to connect you. Okay. Oh, I was so fascinated yesterday, Coca. All right, let me give you a background to this story. Mario Lemieux. You didn't think I'd mention his name, did you? We didn't rehearse that. We didn't even talk about it pre-show last night or this morning. Mario Lemieux was a player in the National Hockey League, and Mario Lemieux had a problem because his team owed him money and his team had no money. So Mario Lemieux negotiated and said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to own the team. So instead of being a creditor of the team, let me get shares of the team. So Mario Lemieux became an owner. And if you don't know that name, he was one of the best hockey players in the world for a very long time. And he segued from on ice to front office in a way that was by necessity more than by desire, though he likely argued after a fact that it was by desire. We then move on to the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan, who, while he was playing, made it very clear that he's not interested in being the best basketball player of all time. He did that. He's not interested in having 6 rings, did that. He wants to conquer the world. It started with him and his Nike deal, and he made it clear to David Stern during the course of his playing career that he was going to own a team. And the National Basketball Association was more than happy to have Michael Jordan own a team. And so many years ago, he bought the Charlotte Panthers. The Charlotte Bobcats became the Charlotte Hornets. After the Charlotte Hornets under George Shinn moved, it doesn't matter. Michael Jordan became an owner. Michael Jordan learned that being an owner, very difficult, except I can make a hell of a lot of money, but it's really hard to win. Mario Lemieux said being an owner can help me protect my assets. Michael Jordan said, let me invest part of my assets. Let me be an owner. Let me get into the room that I've always wanted to be in. And so the NBA was only too happy because it promotes diversity in the ownership room, which all leagues sorely lack, and it keeps the biggest name in your sport in your sport. There are very many big names in sports that just disappear. And what leagues are trying to do is make sure that the icons don't. We did a segment recently about Tom Brady. Tom Brady getting into Vegas Raiders, ownership, and now it hit a snag. But I said they'll find a way because the NFL wants Tom Brady around. So LeBron was giving an interview yesterday, and he did something that to me is worth noting. He has been very open for years as a member of the Los Angeles Lakers, not saying that he wants to own the Lakers, not saying that he wants to own a NBA team. He's made it clear that he wants the team in Vegas. That's it. He wants an expansion team given to Vegas with him as the ownership group. Now, he doesn't have an option for an expansion team the way David Beckham got in his deal at MLS with the Los Angeles team, which is how he became one of the owners of Inter Miami. LeBron James does not have that in his contract. LeBron James is not going to get an expansion team at a discount. No matter how much the league wants LeBron James in, the expansion fees in basketball and baseball and in any sport are way too important to owners. As a matter of fact, the only reason that Major League Soccer gave that discount to Beckham is back then expansion fees were nothing. It wasn't even worth talking about. It was barely a discount. It turned into a huge one, but at the time it was not. Right now, post-COVID, as owners are trying to recoup the losses that they suffered in their businesses, both sports and otherwise, you are reading about expansion in hockey. You're reading about expansion in football. You're reading about expansion in baseball. You're reading about expansion in basketball. It's not a coinkydink. The reason you're reading about expansion is that owners need this influx of revenue that will not go to players. It will go to paying down the debt that they have accrued during the pandemic, or it will go down to pay down acquisition debt that owners use to pay these very high billion-dollar franchise prices. There are very few things in the world of sports business where you get a one-time bulk payment like that. Expansion fees are the number one. You could do a broadcast deal with an upfront payment and use that as a chunk of money, but then you are paying the price down the road. In NBA and MLB, there is some talk that an expansion fee could be multi-billion dollars. Now, that's not per franchise. You split that 30 ways in baseball. But if you've got a $2 billion expansion fee, you're talking about significant, say, $60 million. That's a big chunk. LeBron James is not going to get a discount to go to Vegas. LeBron James may get the expansion franchise, but if so, he's going to have to fight with Shaq, because Shaq came out saying he wants the expansion franchise in Vegas. So LeBron wanted to explain to you why he wanted to be in Vegas. And he said, obviously, you've got the Raiders here. You have the Knights here. You have the Aces here. You got F1 coming soon. All-Star Weekend's been a few times. I think adding an NBA franchise here would just add to the momentum that's going on in this town. I'd like to present you with one word that you may want to add to your vocabulary, LeBron. It's called saturation. How is that not a worry that a market as small as Vegas, and I don't care about tourism, because I'd like to know the number of tourists that go to Orlando Magic games. Hey, I'm going to Disney World. Let's go to a Magic game. Hey, I'm going to Vegas. Let's go to a Knights game. Think that happens? And by the way, LeBron, what about the Las Vegas A's? You didn't even mention them. Is that because the Oakland A's aren't actually relocating to Vegas? It's been pretty quiet. Or is that because they're not even worth mentioning to you? Or did you just forget? And if you did forget, and they do end up moving, now you're talking about every major sport being in Vegas. Don't get me wrong. I love Vegas, but my, oh my, that's a lot to ask of a city. So I get, LeBron, why you want a team in Vegas. I get why you think it's the best option. I could argue that it's not. But the NBA is under no circumstance going to give him any sort of break. And now the NBA has to deal with another big-time personality, Shaq, who said, I want my own group. I know Vegas hasn't been awarded an NBA team, he told the Messenger. But if they ever get to the point where they're awarded a team, I'd like to be a part of that. But I don't want to partner up with nobody. I want it all for myself. Shaq, I love all the commercials you do. I love your new contract with Turner. I love the fact that Turner gave it to you without knowing they're going to keep the NBA rights after the contract expires at the end of next season. I love all that. Shaq, I love all of your post-career investments. But guess what? You are not in a position to lead a multi-billion-dollar investment. You will not be able to put in the money required to be the front main owner. It's not going to happen. You can be part of a group, just like LeBron can't either. Don't worry. Just like Jordan couldn't today. The numbers are simply crazy. Look at what Magic Johnson does. He gets himself in groups everywhere. He doesn't have the type of money, although he's done unbelievably well post-career, unbelievably with his investments and what he's done, the investments he's made in inner cities, the things he's done, nothing but respect for Magic as a businessman. He can't front groups to buy the Commanders or buy the Dodgers. There is a small number of people who are in that billionaire club, and LeBron and Shaq are not in it. And it's not to say they don't deserve to be. They don't deserve to be owners, that I don't want to see them as owners. I'm just being realistic. The best shot that LeBron and Shaq have is to find a Bruce Sherman. Bruce Sherman, the owner of the Marlins, who brought Derek Jeter with him. And Derek got to run the team until Bruce Sherman realized that Derek Jeter's a fraud, couldn't run the team, and fired him, and realizes that he can do way better, and he has. LeBron and Shaq are going to have to put together a group. So the NBA is going to have to decide who's going to be the winner. LeBron has gotten himself into groups already. You know that it's not by accident that he's in Fenway Sports Group. You know it's not by accident that he does business with that Redbird Capital Group. Those are sources of money. But there are rules both in the NBA and Major League Baseball and the NFL about how much money the control person, how much money the general partner has to put in to be the lead investor. LeBron can be the most famous investor. Shaq can be the most famous investor, like Magic is often in his groups, but it doesn't give you control. And I wonder whether or not Shaq and LeBron are interested in just being an owner or if it's all about control. And if I know LeBron and Shaq, it's all about control because that's what Jordan had. But Jordan's price of entry, because he did it so much longer ago, was so much lower. At the value that Jordan spent, at the price Jordan spent to buy a team, LeBron and Shaq could be the lead investor and the face, the control person. But the way it is now, it's not going to happen. So the NBA has to find a workaround because it is in the NBA's best interest to have either LeBron or Shaq involved in ownership. And so I think that you're going to see a group put together where they will allow LeBron to be the control person of a team, but he will not be able to invest the amount required, which means there's going to have to be some sort of rule change. So I would like to give you a wait to see. Wait to see is when I tell you something's going to happen. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, great. But I'm not going to be like everybody else, as we talked about earlier in this show. I am going to give it to you straight. And I'm going to revisit it if I'm wrong. Wait to see. LeBron's going to get a team before Shaq. That's part one. Part two is that the NBA is going to have to figure out some sort of rule change that will enable LeBron to be a control person, because I do not believe LeBron wants to be a passive investor and a figurehead in any team that he is a part of. God, I don't know how you're going to summarize that, Coke, on a wait to see document. But that's the two part of the wait to see. And the reason why the NBA must get this done having LeBron involved in your game, critical. Because for the NBA, it's just business. We'll be back tomorrow. This is nothing personal.